There's a lot of brands that would be like, we got Pete Holmes, this comedian who maybe has like 1.5 million followers. And then we have like Brad Pitt and Jared Leto who are also approaching us. And it's like, let's get them involved. And it's like, Brad Pitt and Jared Leto are going to do jack fucking shit for your business.
Every brand has a Super Bowl that they don't know about yet.
If it's not like a heck yes, then it's a heck no. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Brand Fathers.
All right, so this week we are back recapping what happened this week in marketing. What are the top campaigns? What are brands doing? Why and how the brand fathers feel about it. Let's kick right into it. Asher and Jordan, any particular topic that has piqued your interest this week you want to kick off with?
Well, I'm a huge fan of espresso martinis, so just sent the Tony's Chocolonely espresso martini. So let's pop that open.
I'm also, it sounds like there's a reality TV show of a marketing competition, y'all, and I don't know how the brand fathers have been snubbed for this, but we've got to talk about that.
Ash went audition, so we're going to go through that process in a minute.
I was pretty deep in casting, so we can touch upon that in a second.
Yeah, we do need to touch on that.
But first, Ashwin, you had a viral video about Tony's, right? Do you want to give a little brand breakdown or why they're special?
Yeah, so Tony's Chocolonely is a Dutch chocolate company that you've probably seen their packaging, which is, it's bright red. It has like this blue font on it. The name isn't Tony's Chocolonely, it's Tony's Chocolonely. And then they have this really unique kind of pattern that you see on the espresso martini as well as their packaging. And the whole kind of backstory of the birth of this brand is that it was created by a guy who was making documentaries, and he made a documentary on the kind of like child labor and slave trade involved in bringing chocolate products to life, and said he basically wants to fight against this. He wants to make a chocolate brand that uses like proper labor standards and fair pay and, you know, equality, and is really kind of like a has these values at the crux of it. And everything that they do from their brand standpoint, their kind of visual direction, even these little kind of like pieces here, all tie back to some of the like inequality in the chocolate system and how this is supposed to be reflective of the issues in the supply chain. So they have a pretty cool backstory. They're a very large chocolate brand in the Netherlands and have now been expanding into the US. So they're doing some cool stuff here.
God, now I see exactly what you're talking about now that I've looked up the actual packaging. This is
Antonio, can you throw the packaging up on here?
Yeah, this is very like British, European. It's
Euro coded. Is that the right term?
Yeah, Euro coded. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's cool. I remember seeing this first in Whole Foods, and they had this kind of point of sale display that is just bright red. And so, you know, alongside all of these other chocolate products, just really stands out. And then I started looking into the brand. I was like, okay, this is cool what they're doing here.
Chocolonely. The name is this dude had the feeling that he was the only person in the industry who was interested in eradicating slavery. Wow. Never knew chocolate was going to be that deep, especially with this kind of bright and fun style packaging. But
well, and with that whole break apart, like I think that's the viral element of it, and obviously what Kahlua ties in here. So even if you don't know, but then you get to that, like, why is it like this? If you ever ask that one question, the answer is like so profound, which I feel like is a really cool brand identity. And I love that they carried it over into this glass, because this is just that social mediaification, viralification of like products and collabs. I think they did a great job on this. Like, I want this so that I don't drink, but I will have this so that I can make a video with it, like 1000%. Like, this is a naturally viral item.
Yes, it is just fascinating in production today, you know, thinking about the type of things that will just show up and are shareable. And this is absolutely fits the bill.
Can you buy it?
So Wyden and Kennedy did this.
I'm literally looking to see if you can buy it. I was going to buy one just because I wanted to put it in the video. I'm on the Kahlua website.
So yeah, where can we buy this, if at all?
A limited edition glass, exclusively available at Dirty Martini Bishopsgate over the holiday weekend. The first 10 customers to order a Kahlua Espresso Martini each day will receive it in the iconic glass. So no, it is a event-only activation, which is a lost op.
Wow, where is that place?
So hopefully they can bring this. If you are one of the people who's gotten that at Bishopsgate, I guess it's served in the glass. I was like, cool, I'll buy it from you and you can send it. I'll put a bounty on it.
Grandfathers aren't there?
Yeah.
Gosh, the Bishop's Gate.
Yeah, but speaking of grandfathers being snubbed, Ashwin, I need to know. All right, well, let's tee up this reality show and tee up your audition. I have to hear about this.
Yes. So Oren and I were reached out to many months ago. This was probably September from someone who works at NBC. They're like, "Hey, we're casting for a show." Oren immediately just like blocks and ignores the account. I'm like, "Yes, I'm taking the call immediately." And so we hop on the call. They don't give us much context for what the show is. And so the first conversation that I have with them, it's like a 20-minute call where they're like, "Hey, we're putting together a show that's going to be on a big cable network that is going to be a kind of branding competition of sorts. You're going to pitch marketing campaigns, advertising campaigns to big companies." And that's all they told me. And then they said, "Are you interested in kind of in this? Like, we follow all of your content. Seems like very in line with this." So I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Let's just like do it." So after that intro call, we had another call where she gets a little bit more background on me and my history and what I do. That was probably a 30-minute call. And then we had a recorded casting call, which was probably an hour and a half. And that recorded casting call, the first, you think there's an issue setting up a camera for this podcast. I mean, I was sitting here and she's recording and she was like, "I need you to change your outfit." I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "It's too dark." She's like, "We chop up this hour and a half call into a 3-minute like sizzle reel," cursed word, for the NBC producers.
Separate combo.
She was like, "Can you bring down just like a bunch of different options?" And like, I'm in front of this woman, I'm just like changing my outfit like 6 times. Then she's like,
"You look great in beige." You're like, "Well, I don't have it in beige."
Are we sure this is not some weird harassment ploy?
No, this is exactly. Marnie and I, my wife and I, did a bunch of reality TV auditions when we were younger and hot, and this we had the same thing. And we'd be like, we had like our lighting set up, and we'd be like in the thing, and we would like look a certain way, like in the outfits. I have some screenshots from that era that are amazing. But this is the MO.
Ash went on the casting couch. This is fascinating. This content. How do we not record this content?
Well, how did you not get selected? Because
So they were super. They probably asked 20 questions, right? They had me pitch certain concepts. They had me like share kind of examples of work. And I think where there was this one thing that they were really digging into that I didn't give them enough meat for was like, they want this like real underdog story of how winning this competition is going to change your life. And
like, yes.
I don't know.
And you're like, my agency's broken down. I'm here. I'm living in Queens.
Yeah. My Winnebago is on its last leg. I just need the repairs, and then our life will be able to be successful.
Yeah, I think that's what they wanted. That's what they wanted out of it. So I don't know. Maybe season 2, I'll come back with a more dramatic tearjerker of a story.
They didn't want to hear that you have a gluttony of branded content regularly rolling in, and brands flying you out to Vail and other places in Utah for beautiful retreats.
Who knows? Maybe Verizon's one of the clients, and so I'm not brand safe for TV.
But this is interesting. This overall, one of the reasons that we started this show is that we were like, hey, marketing is becoming really mainstream. Branding is becoming really mainstream. People care about this as much as they care about stocks like now, right? It could be a TV show in its own right, like relatively easily. And it's interesting to see that actually come mainstream. Someone like Jimmy Fallon being like, my next move is a marketing and branding show. I think it's a really interesting indicator of how much the actual consumer populace cares. Whether this flops or not, even the fact that it's in conversation is really interesting. So curious what y'all thoughts are there. We've talked about this over dinner, I know, before.
I think that's a really important idea, and probably why a lot of our content has gone beyond just this audience of people who work in marketing. If we're talking like brass tacks of like marketing for marketers, it's like, sure, that's going to appeal to a pretty narrow audience. But when you look at the implications of like marketing and branding, well, it's like, these are just things that companies use to persuade people to buy their products. And like, it hits the cultural mainstream. And so when we pick apart like, hey, here's why this brand did a collab here, and this is why they talked about it this way, because this is the audience that they're trying to go after. If you were in that audience, you're like, oh, that's why that worked on me. And it kind of like unpacks your own psychology in words and a framework that you had never thought about before. So it's kind of like explaining their own purchasing behavior and things that they're influenced by, which I think just has broad appeal.
So I just did a quick, I think you're absolutely right. And Oren, I do remember our dinner where we're basically like, we're reading this on Ad Week. We think that there's an outdated model a bit in traditional media. And there is this fascination, I think, with marketing. Now that social media has become so ubiquitous and it's the place where your brand is basically going to cut through or not, I think people do now understand the value of marketing. I'm fascinated to know that like how they got Jimmy Fallon to be backing this. I guess this is like a niche down version of Shark Tank, right? So it's just marketing. And then of course I'm a nerd. I care about, so it's like they call this On Brand Agency. That is the little agency that they're going to be putting together. I went and did a quick look for On Brand, and I found this organization. This does not have Bozoma St. John on it.
Well, hold on. The name of the show is called On Brand.
Okay. Well, there's an agency out there called On Brand.
They're going to be getting a lot of traffic.
Yeah, they're getting my traffic right now. Well, if anybody reads Adweek, I don't know.
This show, I heard about this because someone else who got hit up with the audition sent me the thing. I had no organic exposure that this was happening. I'm outside of the Jimmy Fallon audience, but curious if you guys heard about it naturally or the first time is when I threw it in the chat.
Literally first time.
I had 3 friends totally outside of this world send it to me, and they're like, are you going to be a judge on this show?
All right, sick. So it is happening organically. I'm just curious if it flops or fails.
Yeah. I think the fact that they pulled in Jimmy Fallon for it is like, hey, this is this one show now that has the opportunity to kind of hit the mainstream. We've talked about some of these other shows in the past. Like there was The Prophet on CNBC, which I think was like a great show, but the host of that show was like he was like the CEO of Camping World. He's like a pretty like unknown figure, and it didn't have like the same kind of appeal. But I definitely think, the last time there was like a business show that hit the cultural mainstream was probably The Apprentice, honestly. And then you have Shark Tank, of course, but
yeah, More impressive to me in the brand is Bozoma St. John, who's the CMO that they've recruited here. She has built a brand of like being the kind of CMO marketing boss babe, badass, I think is what she refers to. And I'm interested in like roles like that for someone like this who has continued to take these big jobs. They stop at every 2 years. I'm not sure how much like impact you end up having in 18 months at every role. I refer to this as like the previously people on LinkedIn, but she's kind of made this a larger like personality, but she's kind of like the pinnacle example of like the previously people on LinkedIn, and now has parlayed it into a full on like television show. And it's pretty amazing to see. I guess she has her own products now as well.
Who doesn't,
Yeah, indeed. Touche. Yeah, indeed. Touche.
All right, so I want to call, if you guys are making a marketing show, because I do think there's going to be a rash of these. And I think that the Shark Tank format is never going to be replicated. I think like people have tried it on YouTube. I don't think it's right. This is interesting. We'll see what happens. But if you were going to say, hey, there's a show that should be out there on TV that represents marketing, branding, social media, any cool ideas that pop up that some producers should run with?
Yes, I'm looking for it right now because I was watching it the other day.
Do you know, guys, I'm now remembering, like somebody reached out to me about some type of pitch show.
I think they reached out to the majority of us because Beeman was on it, a bunch of them was on it. I think all of us who had a social media that are like decent size got it. So I'm pretty sure you were on that list too.
Yeah.
You, like me, were just like spam. You just like delete. Just
a lot of times.
Okay, so there's this guy, Dave, built this company. I think he's an Australian guy who built this company called the Hoodie. It's like this huge oversized hoodie and maybe grew to like $100 million or something. I saw a video from him the other day, which I think this is a great concept, where he's like, okay, the title, I try saving a dog supplement business from going bankrupt. And basically this whole kind of 30-minute video is of him finding this dog supplement business, working with the owner, optimizing their content, their meta ads, like teaching them the basics of a lot of things that they should do. And
amazing.
It's well produced. It's like it should be a TV show. This concept has like existed on TV, referencing The Prophet, but I think he does this stuff in a very modern way for a business that is like mostly e-commerce and still makes it engaging. And I think he's going to be building a series out of this. And it's like, great. I could see this as like a series on Netflix because I think this just appeals to a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a great concept. Oh, he looks like he's been on Shark Tank.
I think he may have been on Shark Tank. Yeah. He's got a pretty good audience over here too. So.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah, I think that show. I think it definitely has legs, and the brand fathers are, probably available for engagements like this that would be, interesting. I do think though. the TV show concept, I think this works great for YouTube. I think about the TV show though, and Oren, you've said some things about this that have stuck in my brain. Like I had like the New York Times reach out to me recently and wanted to interview me for an article, and I think about like the way that the world is changing. We're like, what does that do for me? You know,
yeah, I mean, I did a Digiday article. It's an interview that's mostly about me and no benefit, right? Cool. I'm happy to talk to a woman who's doing a cool article, but like, I just don't think the new world is different. But TV, I think, is still ultra relevant.
Do you? Okay.
What's next on the list?
Let's see. Oh, by the way, hold on. Ashwin, wait, we need to have an emergency intervention here. Ashwin, do you not have YouTube Premium?
No, I have YouTube Premium.
Oh, thank God.
Daughter. Of course I have YouTube Premium.
Oh, sorry. Was that Antonio, our son, doesn't have YouTube Premium?
No, that was me, but I don't think I'm logged in. Or I'm logged in on like a different YouTube account.
Okay. I got to say, I was talked into this maybe a year ago, 9 months ago, and I don't know how I existed before. Now, the thought of not having it is absolutely insane. It is a great trade-off for whatever it is, $12 a month. It's insane.
Brought to you by our sponsors at YouTube.
Indeed. YouTube, thank you so much. We appreciate your support. Okay, sorry.
Let's bring up this Tom Brady thing, because I haven't really – I just looked at the headline, but this is preposterous.
Tom Brady joins Delta Airlines as a strategic advisor in the first of its kind multi-year partnership. This was a while ago, but I think this is a larger conversation. The unique partnership includes multiple elements which will involve Brady in strategic initiatives alongside Delta's global employee base, customers, and other key stakeholders.
So, okay, let's just stop there, right? From a copy standpoint, let's unpack that. That is the perfect way to say everything and nothing at all. Just like a string of completely meaningless sentences. A strategic advisor for a first of its kind multi-year partnership. Great. We are none the wiser as to what's going to happen here. Will include multiple elements that involve strategic initiative. This is just the Delta CEO likes Tom Brady and wants to pull him in. This is that Gaga Kodak shit, you know?
Absolutely. This said another way, like Delta executives wanted to hang out with Tom Brady and wanted Super Bowl tickets.
That's it. And that's it. And they wanted to tell their kids, like, hey, we got, Dad was hanging out with Tom Brady today.
Totally. When was the last time Tom Brady actually took a commercial Delta flight?
But hold on, let's scroll down here. Maybe they have. Maybe they do have more to say.
Wait, should we try to unpack the subhead?
Oh my God! Announced an innovative new partnership connecting his expertise in teamwork, performance, and perseverance as a long-term advisor.
Yes,
dude, he's gonna go speak at their keynote and try to make some like half-baked analogy as to how like being at the Super Bowl is the same as like the holiday season for Delta and how they need to work together as a team.
Yeah, how you need to handle angry people on Twitter complaining about losing your baggage.
Yeah, can we? I'm just trying to say, like, should they have put Tom Brady in the C-suite? Like, he seems like a smart guy,
chief competition officer.
Like, should they give these people like real roles? You know,
they should make him the CFO of Delta Airlines.
Hold on, customer. Leaning into Delta's keep climbing ethos, Brady will support the company's brand identity and select elements.
He's going to do for Salesforce, Agentforce, what Matthew McConaughey has done, which is going to show up in some ads. And we're going to be like, okay, this doesn't make me want to fly down.
Brady will support Delta's work to positively impact communities where employees live and work, inspiring the next generation of Delta community leaders.
What does this mean? Is Tom Brady showing up to like the luncheon? Is he like, is he going food truck to food truck outside of like rural Philadelphia? Like, what is happening?
And it's like you see something like this and you just remember there's probably like 30 people at Delta who've collectively spent like 3,000 hours putting together this partnership.
Yeah, but also, and I think it would have been better if they had just announced Tom Brady as their chief flight officer, and it was just him like studying the trajectory of the football, like studying the plane, like sitting with engineers, and made like 4 funny ads. Probably would go farther than whatever his strategic advisor services are, especially when they're based around motivating the communities that the Delta peoples live in. Like, what are we doing? But we did like the Supergroup one is interesting, where they're basically getting a celebrity and like basically making them their chief super officer or whatever, or getting like an influencer. And we see kind of more of this because we're still in this kind of nascent world of, okay, how do you get influencers involved at a high level beyond making some things, and is like giving them this like fake position of being like chief super officer. She's mission of make everyone in the world feel super with Supergroup. Again, this also doesn't feel very thought through. but is like part of this. This is getting like figured out right now. So I'm curious. Have you ever seen this go well, or have like a cool version of this?
I would say like there's versions where it gives some credibility. I'm trying to remember, was Jay-Z the creative director of Reebok or something with Rock Nation? Jay-Z, the NFL brought in Jay-Z to be the figurehead to just try to calm people down and distract them from Colin Kaepernick's movement. And I think that was somewhat successful to got people to chill out a little bit. I don't think there's a lot of these corporate who's ASAP Rocky is for one right now, Puma's creative director. I just think this is a way, it's either by the agents to get more money, to say this is not just an endorsement deal and we're throwing some extra stuff on top of that. Because like if Delta just wanted to buy Tom Brady's name, image, and likeness to put him in some ads, that might be one deal. Maybe this is a way for their marketing agents to like get something on top, or for the corporations to say, hey, this is a more involved partnership than usual. But I don't know how many are actually paying off on the back end. Ashwin, have you seen any of these that actually are meaningful?
No, but there was a time at which the jewelry brand Alex Anani had a chief astrology officer.
Oh,
the chief astrology officer made $750,000 a year.
No. Are you kidding me?
So,
well, listen,
every brand should bring in an influencer. I'm going to throw this out. Every single brand should have an astrology officer.
Yep.
Like an influencer astrology officer brought in just to make the vibes weird. Like, totally. It should be a thing. It should be.
I honestly think I think you would be better off. So I think when you ascribe a traditional name, at least those of us okay, ASAP Rocky's your chief creative. Okay, cool. Like, what does that mean? You guys show up to his house twice a year, get his thoughts on something. Like, I don't know how much he's actually deep into the nitty gritty. Maybe he is. But I think it would be better off calling him like the chief vibes officer, or the chief aura officer. And it would like be funnier. It would cut through more. You would get people talking about it because, he's making X amount of money to bring the vibe and bring the aura. But that's really what you're asking him to do, right? You're not actually asking him to get into the tech packs and be designing, these items and whatnot. So I think that would be a better strategy for companies in general. It's like he came correct. He said $250,000 a year. What I expect from you is, I don't know, one day in the office a week or something, can be remote. Want you to feed into our, product and creative team. I want you to help lead this and that. You're going to get equity, XYZ. And I thought that that's really, really clear. As one of the things that I have really struggled with, I think, as a creator, and we've kind of touched. Yeah, okay, Antonio's got it here. I'm offering $1 million
contract. Because I was like, that's more like, there's no way he's touching it at $250K. Like, well, I don't think any of us would touch it. $250K.
Yeah, that was it.
So I think that maybe that was like my reply. So I was like, that's just not enough money to really, like, I'm sure he paid Marquise Brownlee more than this or gave him significant equity.
He had to have given him more than this because it's 10 to 40 hours a month. Like Marquise Brownlee's getting $250K for a video.
Yeah. I was gonna say, this is a one where people our size go like, yeah, I can't imagine someone at his size,
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he's saying, equity plus, 10 to 40, someone with a POV. And then I'm sure I'm sure
they ended up paying more for this, but their results were outsized. That's the best possible outcome they possibly could have had doing this initiative. They got all this attention, and then they ended up with literally one of the best influencers on earth.
Yeah, I think you put yourself in a favorable light with creators and others. I think one of the things that I've struggled with, quite frankly, is as a creator and you build this audience, you get all these people who are coming at you, right? So we're like, I don't know, TV show. Okay, I can't deal. I don't know. I don't. When you give me these obscure details and whatever, like if it's not very clear, I can't. If it's not like a heck yes, then it's a heck no. And so
exactly. That's why like anyone that leads with the budget is like gets their email answered.
Absolutely, lead with the budget. Tell me what the expectations are. Like I have so many engagements of like, yeah, we should do this thing, or we're looking for a consultant. I'm like, give me your ballpark, but what are we talking about?
Especially if you want people to submit like they were. If you want people to come to you, even more so, it has to be out there. And you're going to deal with a lot of chaff, which I'm sure that the rich folks did, but then you get the cream that rises to the top. And I do find it funny. Ashwin had this video the other day, and there was a guy in the comments. I was laughing about being like, hey, do you only respond to big celebrities or like big influencers, like I won't get an email back, and it's like, hey, most of these emails that we get for someone asking to do something is like a 2-sentence with no capital letters and like no budget and like no expectation. And it's like, guess what? Like the few emails I answer are like, hey, we have resources to do this really interesting thing.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how big or small you are, but the interesting resources. Like,
yeah, totally. Also, if you are wanting people to respond, I cannot tell you the amount of people who shoot me a DM with no effing context about anything and are like, hey, love your stuff, would love to have you join my podcast. No context about it, know what the podcast is about, know why you would like me to be on it, or, you know, whatever. Like, it's just, and I get, anyway, I'm sympathetic. I stop myself from being frustrated at times, but I do feel like my brain could have processed before. If I look at how many followers someone has, I could probably go and I see their lifestyle. I'm like, okay, you're really busy. I have a short amount of time to like communicate with you. This is a good practice if you're in a corporation as well. There's actually a fascinating study that shows the length of email is inversely proportional to the rank and title of someone at a corporation. So
I watched this. I watched my brother go from like Marine to CEO at one point, and then I watched his grammar, diction, precision go down to like where I get like a 2-word email, and it would, like if, with the undercase, I was like, this is just this action right here. Yeah,
totally. Sent from iPad. But like VPs, like C-suites,
metrics ?
Yes. And interns will write a freaking novella, you know? So there's a fine art between figuring out how to get your point across in a short amount of time and understand what you're wanting to get out of it.
It's funny. I've had this backfire recently because I started doing that too. I basically gave up on like decks. I don't know if you guys have seen any of my decks or anything recently, but my decks are now like a white slide with Helvetica with just like 3 words. It'll be like, you know, like future of social or like hooks, you know, and then like maybe like an image, and I've been really moving into this like completely lo-fi, do whatever, and then I ended up in like a real pitch process the other day, and I was like, and I had one of those, I was like, fuck, you know, like I can't just rely on the cloud and the 3-word slide anymore. Right. We're back to basics.
It all depends on context, you know. If you've earned the right to be there and people know your chops and everything, then I think you can have the lo-fi, and the lo-fi can be funny.
Yeah, but it's also just effective being like whenever I do presentations now, like these brand workshops, I'm like, hey, I have an intentionally lo-fi slide deck. I'm giving you something to look at, so you don't have to look at me, and I'm giving you one thing to think about on every slide, and there's nothing else, because if I do more, it's like doing too much, and so that's how you're going to see the slides the way they are, is my spiel.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to this idea of like McBot and creators, because it's something that I'm working on right now on the Sunpowder side. Like we're doing some partnerships with like
Chief Sun Officer?
Influential dermatologist. The brand fathers need a chief sun officer.
Yeah.
I need a tan. It's been cold out here.
Yeah. I'm constantly trying to shield my skin, so we should talk.
I'm the opposite. We are sun maxing out here. I don't want to throw off Ashman's marketing, but I'm smothering myself in beef tallow and fucking head to the surf break, brother, you know.
Well, that's that West Coast. I'm here in Texas where there's absolutely no
there's a hole in the ozone layer directly above you from the guns.
Totally. I'm just getting blasted. Ashman, please go on. You're looking for a chief sun officer.
So we're looking to bring in some people, and we've had the conversation internally where, you know, my co-founders have like brought up some different celebrities that we might want to get involved, and we're kind of talking about the pros and cons of like that relative to just bringing on creators who have smaller audiences but are really good at creating content. And I think when we look at the Ridge example, so Ridge, like McBod in and of itself, like sure, he's well known in the space, but he's an excellent creator of his own. So when he informs kind of product marketing and decision designs, and then like how to amplify the message for it, he can be so impactful on all of those fronts because he's thinking from like a creator first lens. He's like, hey, my audience is or is not going to resonate with that. Like this is going to be the hook for it. And then you can kind of reverse engineer great products for it. I was talking to a brand yesterday that we've done a bunch of work with called Modern Mammals, and they're a men's like hair care product. They're kind of like alternative to
I thought you could say they were like an animal trafficking company. I was like, fucking, you know, I'd be like, hey, you want Wolverine? Modern Mammals. Yeah.
Modern Mammals.
It's a good name.
There's a reason I haven't heard of this.
Badger?
Yes. So it's not for Jordan, but it is for guys with hair that feel like shampoo dries it out. So anyway, Pete Holmes, the comedian, was like a fan of their product and reached out to them and was like, "Hey, can we do some type of partnership together?" And basically, what they structured is like they brought him on as an equity partner, and he is making ads for them. And I was talking to the Modern Mammals guys about like just how it's going, and they're like, the partnership with him is great because he is funny and he's a good writer, so he can make great ads for us. He also knows other comedians he can bring into the ads. He can get discounts on all of like the production stuff because he's worked with all of these people before. So he's like a tremendous amount of value add to their business, where there's a lot of brands that would be like, okay, we got Pete Holmes, this comedian who maybe has like 1.5 million followers, and then we have like Brad Pitt and Jared Leto who are also approaching us, and it's like, let's get them involved. And it's like, Brad Pitt and Jared Leto are going to do jack fucking shit for your business. It's
well,
like,
especially if you're getting tactical. Like one thing, so a thumb stop is something I think we're all obsessed with if you really work in ads and you really work in social. And so one thing I noticed is Ashwin and I both do some work with Darkroom. Darkroom, like literally, they'll just Slack me and be like, hey, can you just record these 2 intros to this ad that we're doing? Because they're just like, cool, when you do the ad intro, the thumb stop rate is higher. That's like literally the math metric. And this is the same thing I was working on this cosmetic deal, where a lot of these cosmetics deals where there's like long-term endorsement, you basically get like X amount of posts and X amount of production days. So production day means they'll be in the studio to make some content, or they'll go to a like some sort of like event or whatever it is. But it's just like, hey, when they're there, get them to cut as many of these hooks as you can. Because anytime you see this woman people know in the first shot of a video ad, the better. And so it's like, don't lead with the product, lead with that person. And does it increase thumb stop? And it increases thumb stop, you're going from like 18 to 27% or 27 to 30, and 30 plus is the benchmark like on an ad. Like there's just such a massive sway on that if you're actually spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and like you do it consistently. And so there's something more thinking about, like the tactical application of that becomes very useful for internet personalities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then that's something that we've also seen, again, kind of like in the beauty and derm space, as we're talking to these like influential dermatologists, you look at all of the big beauty brands like L'Oreal, Neutrogena, everyone, they're using them in their paid ads online, but then also in their TV ads, because these guys have like 10 million followers.
Yeah, but when I did the L'Oreal thing for South by Southwest, I was with the dermatologist from CeraVe, who I'm at dinner with him, no idea, I thought he was just an influencer, and he had like good dermatology content. He's big, huge YouTube, whatever, reaction videos, but then he's the one in the SNL commercial. It's like, not only is he on their feet all the time, not only is he doing that, he's like the drummer in their SNL. I'm like, yeah, it's like they are like, their people are going hard. He's like, yeah, like he's like, I'm the guy. Like when it goes like in this niche, like everyone knows me. It's like, that's wild. Yeah. That's what I want to put out there, just brainstorming here. Instead, maybe I feel like you can get a creator team of all skin cancer survivors and then name it like remaining skin together, or like there's like some funny like angle there that's like just a little dark,
Yeah. I mean, it's a big audience of the product. I think there's this interesting thing where it's like a lot of that audience is a lot older, of course.
They're all sitting in a circle. It's like the boom shot on the way down, and it zooms in. It's like, should put on that sunscreen, or like, and they just go all around it, and then it's one of the most depressing ads ever. Just saying, you don't have to run with it.
Maybe we got Skin Cancer Awareness Month coming up, so maybe.
How big is that? Is that like y'all's Super Bowl?
Is this your Super Bowl, Ashwin? Yeah.
Well, we will see. We'll see next month what it is for us.
That's actually not to tangent completely off here, but like every brand has a Super Bowl that they don't know about yet. Yeah. And I would say that this happened with me with Understated Leather, which is the Western women's wear brand that I've worked on for years. And we realized that Stagecoach is our Super Bowl. Every year, women go to Stagecoach and they buy a country-themed outfit. We sell Western wear. And once we started seeing that by researching social media, by seeing that's where these girls are tagging us, is because they're going to this. And then we started producing for that and then marketing for that. And it became as big as a holiday season. And every brand has that, whether it's Skin Cancer Awareness Month. The reason I like Ashwin's thing is it's not like, oh, only cool brands or only da-da-da. It's like, no, like supplements, health. Like there is something related to it that is as big an event as your holiday season. You just have to find it, and just worth considering and hunting down, because I never thought like the country music festival would be responsible for like a double-digit % of sales, but it is.
It absolutely is. It's so good. I think we started talking about this stuff last week, and this alchemy book by Rory Sutherland. I've been reading more of it, and there's some really good stuff in here that also was informed. It reminds me of my time in Nike Women's, because I came from Nike Football, where we would actually, the Super Bowl was like the thing, and then went to Nike Women's, where it would be like, it would be Stagecoach would be the biggest thing of the year, or the Glossier release or whatever in New York. And there's a great thing about how consumers come best from the edges and the extremes rather than the average, because the average actually represents no one. And so, who are those people who are getting completely fired up for those singular moments, because they probably represent a larger group of people rather than trying to just capture the broad average in the middle. You end up nowhere without a sharp point.
Yeah, I feel like everyone is such a big fan of Rory Sutherland, which for a good reason. That I feel like if Ashwin could just have beef, I feel like it would just be great for the internet. It would just be good for marketing culture in general.
Yeah,
if they're just, like throwing barbs back and forth about like, you remember when Ogilvy did that campaign and
Well,
can we set that up?
Ogilvy is Ashwin's leader.
Yeah, Ashwin's nemesis. I'm saying everyone has too positive a sentiment. We've got to throw a curveball into that.
It's true.
That's an extremely good point.
Yep. I'll stop bringing it up soon.
No, let's keep going until beef. Until we can convince one of the people in the group chat to just throw some shot.
I'm sure he'll be canceled. He's had two years of positive sentiment now. I think there will be.
And he's an older white man. It's about time for him to make it.
True. Yeah.
Hey, brother, back in Leeds in 1974.
All right. What else do we see this week?
Well, there was the Revolve lawsuit.
Yeah, there was a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Which
let's talk about the Revolve lawsuit. I don't know how deep you want to get into FTC, with after everything Jordan's been through, but
I just want them to come for the. I want them to come for the scam ads, the multi-panel stories that are all AI generated.
I was gonna say, how are you suing Revolve, but they ain't sued Obvi? I'm just saying.
Yeah, $50 million alleging hidden paid brand partnership. I was a little, so they got a chief plaintiff, which I put in the group chat last night, was hilarious. This woman said, had I known, lead plaintiff Ligia Negranu said in the lawsuit that had she known the influencers' posts were sponsored, she would not have purchased Revolve's products at the prices she paid, which at times were 10 to 40% higher than those.
Yeah, this is some amazing. This lawyer was like, here's how we're going to do this. Yeah. And even though it makes no consumer psychology sense, because any consumer would have just been like, oh, that's 40% cheaper. Yeah, I'm going to buy that one.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah. I think this is like just going nowhere.
I don't think it's going nowhere. I think it's completely right. Look, if you are not tagging paid partnership or putting a hashtag at the front of your post, you are pretty blatantly in violation. Now, I think this gets weird in these longer term relationships, right? Yeah. In terms of or more casual relationships. Like, for instance, I think something we all see a lot is like, hey, I've done X or Y with, say I had a relationship with Casa Zul or whatever, God, I can't remember. But I'm not getting paid now, but I'm tagging it or whatever. And someone's like, I bought because of that. Like, okay, where's the line? Well, but I do feel like if they were actually paid for that post and they can prove it, then they're going to lose.
Totally.
If they're paid for that post, but let me, I don't know the technicalities of the law here, but say Revolve has this relationship, they have a contract, and in the contract it says you must disclose all of this stuff. The influencer signs off on it. The influencer posts content, but then doesn't say this.
Oh,
stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So the influencer liable versus Revolve.
Yeah,
and that's,
exactly.
Who's liable? Yeah.
Well, one of the fascinating things that I saw in this is that 3 influencers are listed as defendants.
Yeah.
And I was curious. I didn't see who they were.
Yeah, I saw it was one of the breakdown threads has them. They're huge.
They must be.
But they're not the ones that in the million plus kind of thing. They're like the LA girls you'd expect, where it's like none of us know them, but they have 1 million followers. Like there's a lot of those are floating around,
Yeah.
But also when you go to I remember when this first came out, we were going to their profiles. I was like, it's just a lot of. I feel like there's a niche of this. The to consumer niche of this is still pretty sketchy. Right, people are pushing stuff all the time. There's all these product claims that are unsubstantiated. Back to one of these AI carousels and the whatever it is. There's a lot going on, and I think the only way this works is these lawsuits like this, because the FTC isn't gonna is I think continually it's like defunding them the way they defund USAID.
Well, it does. It's a very weird middle place. Right. For years, the Hollywood PR playbook would be brands would send, you would be seating Justin Bieber or Brad Pitt or whoever when they walked around down Rodeo Drive and the paparazzi was conveniently there taking their photo. They didn't have ad over it,
Yeah, but they also didn't tag.
Yeah.
This without the tag doesn't matter. And so it's basically whether they were contracted to tag or not. If they were not, if there was nothing in there that said you have to tag it, I think this is completely moot. If they're just tagging for fun because they work with them or that's a good thing for them to do. If it was you need to tag us X amount of times as part of your deal and then it's not disclosed, that's when I think this becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Sure, you know, I mean, that hat is classic.
I mean, yeah, this is a really weird one. I do think it makes it harder for like all of us, for example. There's a lot of brands that we just like, that we end up doing, or we say something nice about, or you eventually may do a partnership. You know, for me, a lot of them that I've found have come about naturally. I've said something nice about them, or I'm a fan of the brand already, and then they show up. Or you may be endorsing a product. You may say, hey, I really like this. They haven't paid me to say this, but I think in this new influencer era, people just assume that you're being paid to promote anything that you ever do.
Well, I think that's a good assumption. Assuming capitalism is the right function, because like, even if you are talking super positive about it, if you make money from content, that is because you are basically incentivized to do that, because either that brand or another brand is probably going to come to you around it. And so like, they have to understand like any level of endorsement or any level of anything from people to make content on the internet is like, has some qualms to it, but like, we have to be assuming capitalism at all time. You don't walk into the car dealership and think they're going to give you a fair shake, you know?
Yeah, totally. Assume capitalism is a good way to put it, for sure.
It's going to be the name of we're going to change the LLC name to Assume Capitalism LLC.
I would say on a weekly basis, I have TikTok videos that will get flagged because people have reported it as branded content.
Oh, really?
It's not. It's just me talking.
That used to happen to me a decent amount. It hasn't happened as much recently.
Let's see. Do we want to talk about anything China government memes or supply chain issues? Oren, are you?
I will say, yeah, I can give the 2 second of like what's happening, or at least what like I've had a lot of working on is like, so some brands are fucked who have shipments that are coming over that are going to get 145% on it they can't pay for and are like shutting down employees and stuff.
From China specifically, right? From
China specifically. The rest of the world is kind of fine, basically. Like, for instance, I make a lot of products in Pakistan, I make products in Turkey, just some pricing fluctuations, whatever. Anyone who's like 10% is going to destroy a business. If it's not like electronics, you're probably going to be able to make it work, right? But what's happening with China is really interesting in that like that's just too prohibitive of a cost. And so a lot of these things, like what I'm working on currently, like I make stuff in China, right? So I made the pants that people have seen me promoting pretty heavily are made in China, but the fabric is from Japan. So what I've been working on is I'm getting the fabric sent from Japan to LA. And I have a partner who's going to do cut and sew in LA, but I have to get the trims from China because you can't get the zippers and shit that are as nice as we want here or kind of anywhere else. It's cheap enough. I've already opened molds. I'm going to get the zippers, I'm going to get the strings, and I'm going to get the buttons and stuff sent from China. I'll pay the tariff on the small goods. We will get the fabric sent from Japan, and then we will have someone in downtown LA cut and sew. And so really it's more of a pain in the ass than anything. The actual end up cost on that is less than paying the tariff, is more than what it was when we just made it in China. But more, it's like the Japanese factories only ever ship to China. And they don't ship fabric to the US. They have to figure that out. And the freight forwarders that we use for all this are based in China. And so it's like, all right, you need a Japanese freight forwarder. And then in downtown LA, reception. And how do you classify the good? That in China, they just take care of all that shit. That's just, you type some shit in and it shows up. And so really it's just a logistical pain in the ass, but a solvable one. And so for instance, for my business, it will delay some launches like a month. And we'll have to make sure everything actually gets made the way we want it to. And will end up costing us 20% more, but it'll be made in the USA.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I wonder how much of that will shift and people will take some ownership. You know, I feel like we got some ripples of this during the pandemic where supply chain issue was like really affected and people had to start going like, oh my gosh, what can we don't want to submit ourselves to that disruption. But I don't know if the lesson was learned. And I've talked with, footwear people like, who are trying to make footwear here, but just cannot. There's all kinds of issues here, but there's not the structural. It doesn't exist here in the U.S. to do it, even if people wanted to do it.
Yeah, and so I also make footwear in Portugal. I was sampling a sneaker in Portugal that I also sampled in China. The Portugal sneaker is better, but it took me 7 fucking months to get the sample because the Portuguese people don't fucking work the same way. No offense to my Portuguese friends, but y'all love a good communist funded vacation, let me tell you. And so it's just it's a different thing happening. You have all these different cultural concerns, but I do think it's a complete reshaping of everything. Whether or not it stays is redundancy by country and supply chain, intimate knowledge of how your stuff is manufactured manufactured and bringing it in and like more ops needs. You can't, anyone who's forecasting out, I'm going to make a year forecast right now. Like you're misleading yourself and your shareholders, right? You're forecasting on like rolling 60, like 13-week cash flow like, is the new barometer of like a company, right? Like no longer that plus a longer term forecast. And so there's just, it's just a hard time to be an entrepreneur. And at the same time, you get this Trump being like, oh, we brought in 500 million from tariffs or 500 billion. And it's like, who paid that? Not fucking China. I cut you a 20K fucking check for it. Like you're taking that from Americans. So I don't feel any fucking value coming out of that. Like, what the fuck did that do for us? Right. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, let me ask you this, Ashwin, are any of your businesses, are y'all packaging or anything over there that has affected you at all? Or
I mean, we have packaging coming from there, but it's like the unit cost of the packaging is like $1. So it's like, great, now it's $2.
Got it. Yeah.
And so if you are down to the, like, if you're doing it at scale, it hurts. So I have the same scenario with businesses I work with they're ordering that, but it's $6 million in packaging every year. So yeah. Now that becoming 13 mil is a fucking problem, right? Yep. But again, in the smaller side, it's like you can adjust. If you're entrepreneurial, you will work through it. But when you're in that medium business to large business, the swings are just so gigantic. Mm-hmm. Is going to be very interesting. Look, I'm in China next Friday. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. And then we're going to all the stuff. Like I'm going to the Hermes. Like we're gonna be in the mix of this. And I'm just like we're gonna see how hard we can go on the jokes. I was going to do a video, like a skit video where it's like, I'm in all the factories. I've got like a notepad and I'm like peering from behind corners. And it's like in China, like documenting secrets to bring back to U.S. manufacturing or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Bring back all the secrets. So that
the secret is like, we're not going to do it. I'm just going to throw that out there. Like
the AI factory videos of like, you know,
Cletus working in the Tesla factory. Like, but this is a real thing. I mean, look, I think the amount of shipments has stopped so much. And so I've been looking at container prices because I was hoping container prices would fall, but really they're just not sending as many ships. So container prices have stayed the same. Ships are just not departing. The ripple effects of this and what this means for jobs and stuff like that, we have not felt the pain of. And it is going to get, I'm assuming there's going to be some resolution because there's already talk of a resolution. But if we're 60 days from now without a resolution, the pain is going to be immense. Yeah.
Somebody sent me this, the CEO of Cuts, who did the like big petition to President Trump. And
it is ironic. Like, with him being in there being like, I'm a Trump supporter, I'm going to do whatever. Like, look, I'm the most conservative person on this chat probably. But it is great how like, it's fitting in its own way that it's just so negatively impacts this entrepreneurial person that's also like, and also I just wish, my real wish is that someone with any level of intelligence was advocating in these conversations. Because, like, keep the de minimis exception. Make it so Temu and Shein can't fucking ship over. That should be fucking priority one. Keep that shit. Yeah. And then lower where the tariff is at. And you've actually given the U.S. a fucking boon. But I guarantee whoever's negotiating this, we're going to end up where that's fucking gone and Temu's back. And we still have fucking tariffs on business. I just wish there was anyone who, like, really fucking understood small business involved in what this conversation looks like. Because it's very apparent that they're not.
Yeah. Well, I stay entirely apolitical and out of it. I don't assume I know anything.
Jordan, I've been in your house seeing the size of your American flag, brother. I know what side you're on. Fucking a year later, or you good, brother?
Black and white American flag with the thin blue line. Yeah.
Jordan got the Punisher skull on the back of the Tacoma,
Bro, in Texas, I'll tell you who you don't cut off. You don't cut off the guy with the thin blue line, the Punisher skull, and the 2A sticker on the back of the
on the Ford Raptor. So limited edition. He had the good one, the 2018.
The Ford Raptor. You're like, you know what? You just go. Go ahead. I'm fine. You're fine.
Especially if they got a King Ranch edition. Fucking just change lanes.
Yeah. Watch out. Just back off. Ashwin, these are vehicles we're talking about.
Yeah, Ashwin, how do you feel about that?
I don't even know the category. It's been years since I've been in one.
Have you operated one of those before in New York or no?
Every time I go to LA and realize I have to get in a car to go anywhere, literally go down the street.
Have you been in like a Raptor?
No, I've never been.
Yeah, so good. Let's fucking go. Like a Dodge Titan. God, man, we got to do Southern. We got to go wing shooting.
Drag racing with the drag race setting on it.
Until you got your boy who has like the fuel injector connection, so he could faster get the Titan to max capacity. You haven't really lived,
Totally, you really haven't lived.
Damn it.
It's true. All right. What else? Do we have anything else that is of note?
No, Ashwin gave up as soon as Ford Raptor was mentioned. As soon as the word cops hit, he was out.
Yeah,
we appreciate y'all watching. This is your reminder to go out and vote in your local elections. Support your local police force if you're in Jordan's case, and we appreciate y'all coming in.
Indeed.
Rory Sutherland, Ashman's coming for you.
That's right. Ashwin Rory beef is incoming.
All right, guys.
Yeah. Okay.